Hey everyone, we're back, and this is the third podcast, maybe the fourth. We're losing track here.
Yeah.
Seth Holler, WISER System CEO, and
Logan Maxwell, wearer of many hats.
so the third part of this series, where we're talking about RTLS cost and manufacturing settings. We initially talked about how WISER does the installation, bringing down costs that we talked about then, and the next one we talked about the actual hardware and how that further brings down cost. And so this one we wanted to talk about the other things, and I definitely wanted to touch upon scalability.
Right.
For example, when people say RTLS system in the industry, what is the first idea that, in terms of quantity, that people come to mind when they think about, well, how many items get tracked simultaneously for a typical system?
Yeah, right. I think the current thought of RTLS and active systems in general is you're going to have 100, maybe up to 200 or 300 items.
That's it?
Contiguous.
100 or 200 items?
And a lot of that is relationally, you have to have a lot of pings coming off your tag and average that down to get good reads. And
this is not the WISER system, right?
Right. So,
but do tell me, why do systems have a lot of pings?
Right. So algorithmically, at a core algorithm level, what WISER has done is made it so you can take one ping off of a tag and get as close as you can in accuracy and precision. That just comes down to core engineering algorithms in order to do that. And what that means is you have a lot longer battery life and you can have a lot more contiguous tags. It means both things.
Wait, so you're saying WISER gets more accurate locations so they don't need as many ping data to average together?
Exactly. So what we can do in one ping, others may take many pings to do. And so that means you can have a lot more tags across your facility. And it opens up use cases beyond the traditional things that people think of.
Well, I have two questions there. One is, when you see a lot more tags, we were before talking about 100 to 200 for other systems. So, how many more tags is that?
Yes. So some of WISER's larger sites are between 15 and 20,000 contiguous tags.
15 and 20,000 at the same site?
Correct. Yeah. So those are more campuses, though. They have multiple buildings under roof.
Mm-hmm.
There's so those are distributed across a larger campus field.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're all contiguous. They're all in the same clocking synchronization, which is important.
Yeah. Wait, I'll get to that. But I had that second question. I didn't want to lose that second question. And you're just getting into it. Since you can track so many items as opposed to 100 and 200, now tens of thousands,
right.
What sort of applications does that open up?
Yes, we have found our core industries have really shifted away from, say, forklift tracking and people tracking, which you can have big, bulky, battery-powered tags. Again, using many, many, many pings.
Sure.
Means you need to have many, many, many battery.
For those other systems that track forklifts, and if they're power consuming, they have to plug into the power of the forklift or something?
Makes total sense. But it's great. Plug it in the power of the forklift, go and do it. And that is great. And you could also do that with AMRs. You could do really anything moving that has a motor on it in your facility. But what we have found is we're tracking a lot of work in process, or parts and materials and equipment to make that work in process across large manufacturing facilities. So you can put these in the routers and the travelers of equipment and of the whip as it moves through your facility and track it end to end. And you could have thousands and thousands and thousands of these on the floor. So it opens up a lot more possibilities than just, hey, where's my forklift? It's, hey, I need to know when this piece of whip hit station 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how long it took in that process, and where is it right now when the customer's calling. So it opens up a lot more applications, especially on the manufacturing side and heavy industry in general.
The other thing in regards to costs for RTL systems, there's two items here. One is, customers may have a question of, hey, when you're doing tens of thousands of assets tracked, typically maybe an RTLS solution might charge per asset tracked. And so how does that how does WISER systems differentiate itself that way?
Right, and we forgot this was about cost, so thank you for bringing it back.
It's all about cost.
So in these scaled systems, you have to be very cautious about not overblowing. It can't be hugely capital and hugely operationally expensive, right? From a license perspective.
That is a whole other webinar or podcast talking about OpEx versus CapEx, right?
I'll just dip my toes in a little bit. So,
I'm going to pull you out.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing is making sure that in terms of that your software platform is able to accommodate those huge things at scale and not need as much maintenance and support, which means the overall licensing cost is less for very large facilities. So doing the core engineering to make sure that your throughput is there means that you don't have to charge as much to keep that support and maintenance offering. The other thing is, don't license by the asset, don't license by the API call, right? Don't license by the data, and then don't license by the client user seat. You want the system to have tens of thousands of tags and many, many, many people across being able to see those move and get the data from it to make core decisions in their MES and their ERP. And so you don't want to penalize customers for expanding in those ways. You want them to use the system. And so WISER has made it clear you have to get an ROI from this, and you have to use the data. You want to have it spread. You want to have many people use it. So we do not license by the asset count. We do not license by the user seat to view the data. And we don't license by the data because we have sites that, as we mentioned earlier, probably 15 minutes ago, that once a second is pretty frequent in these sorts of things. And when you have once a second, tens of thousands of tags, that's a lot of data.
Oh, a lot of data.
But you can use it and analyze that data in very interesting ways. So you don't want to penalize people for generating that data. You want them to generate that data.
So, I mean, in summary, basically, the licenses are tiered licenses, but they don't exactly relate to the per item tracked or the per API call. So even though you're getting lots of accessible data, you're not seeing the extraordinary cost that maybe other systems might see.
Right, or per client seat too, right? To be able to see a dashboard and view the data is often another charge, so avoid that as well. Now, not to say that it doesn't scale in proportion somewhat to your site size. Of course, in order to support tens and tens of thousands of tags across millions of square feet is going to be a different license cost than, say, a 40,000 square foot shop with 400 bits of WIP.
Sure.
Those are different costs, but the core engineering is there to be able to support both, so it doesn't scale like this. It scales, like that.
Okay, great. I think we're out of time for this podcast, but there's just still so much more to talk about. So we'll see you guys again in a minute, I guess. So thank you so much, everyone.
All right.